Hello everybody, my name is Josh Blaze and today I'll be talking to you about implantable vitals and nutrient monitoring devices. This is a wonderful concept that I'm looking forward to getting further into detail with you regarding this wonderful presentation. During this presentation we'll be talking about market research, product opportunities, and other assessments found during this wonderful time. So a brief introduction about this wonderful product and the idea. The goal for this was to evaluate the market potential for anything like this. So what is the market potential and interest of the consumer for a implantable vitals and nutrients implant device? So we'll go ahead and be discussing that. A little bit more about it is what that has for a benefit to the consumer, to the doctor practitioner, and of course to the medical companies for that consumer. And of course, what other benefits does this have? Is it for preventative, preventative diseases? Is it for preventative monitoring? Is it for active treatment and conditioning? A little bit more on the detection side, of course, so we'll be discussing that a little bit more. And then lastly, some more further research questions based off of surveys that were taken and some of the results, so we'll cover that as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the four major points for this. So for the healthcare market, of course, we know that this device, medical monitoring devices, would be to monitor patients and give that feedback information to their medical practitioner and their doctor. Another wonderful part of this is it could also be a wonderful tool for your medical company to approve further treatment, as it would constantly give data based on your condition and your lifestyle. So as we know, of course, medical healthcare, it derives most of its points from medical chronic diseases. And that is, of course, the derivative to all the spending. Here would be, remote patient monitoring, which of course relay that data back to your doctor and the medical company. That would also, give more insight to the consumer themselves, the patient, and that would be a lot of value added, and it could be a wonderful medical health tool. And lastly, implantable monitoring devices. Between 8 to 10% of Americans already have this. So it is definitely something that is popular amongst the medical community, but also would give great value, as that medical data and insights is for some invaluable. It is absolutely a necessity, and it would be critical to survival or just maintaining a healthy life for treatment. So some of the methodology for this project, we definitely used a lot of different bits of research, but some of the main ones that we'll talk about was I did my market research and got some wonderful insights regarding feedback from potential consumers, along with, of course, validated sources. So with that, it was done off of SurveyMonkey, which was a wonderful site. With there, we were able to get, evaluated interest from their surveyors, price points that they would be comfortable paying, value-added items, and of course, what it is that they'd be looking for with such a product. There were a total of 8 questions in the survey, but we'll only go over, a couple of them just to give you the grander scheme and maneuver. Here's one of the survey questions. This one, of course, was looking at survey interest for an implant device. Of the 4 individuals who took the survey for our, sample size, 2 of which were, somewhat interested. One was very interested, and another was extremely interested. So with this, 8 to 10% of Americans already have a medical implant device for medical monitoring. It might just be something as simple for insulin and blood sugar ratings, but how would this be taken? Wonderful product that does not only your vitals, your insulin, sugar levels, but also key nutrients, vitamins and other items if you have deficiencies. And this was one of the survey questions that stemmed from that idea. Another item here is, most valued benefit. So here I listed 4 items for, a potential. Would you want it for vitals monitoring, nutrient monitoring, insulin monitoring? Of course, all of the above. Now, as we see here from the data, all 4 of our sample size said, hey, I want it to do all of these wonderful things. So a wonderful one-stop shop, cover A to Z type of device for medical monitoring would most definitely be appreciated according to the survey. Moving on, we have comfort with the implant. Now here we had a little bit more of a mixed result. Some people were comfortable, some people were uncomfortable, and we had a little bit more of the majority that were uncomfortable with such a device. Me personally, I am terrified of needles, and of course something being attached to me a little bit more permanently or long term, that definitely drives concern, because obviously there'd be a needle left in my arm. But of course, what are the risks with having something like this that is now an attachment of me? Of course, sterilization, it would need FDA approval, things declared that it is not going to be a health concern, although I'm trying to monitor my health. What could this possibly bring as a cause and effect? Just like with anything with a business, what is the price? What kind of MSRP could we be looking at? And what is it that the consumer would be most interested in? So for pricing expectations of the four, two people were willing to pay $300 to $600 for this type of item. And then for the other two, they said, hey, I will only do this device if it's covered by my insurance. Maybe the $300 to $600 is, a copay, or, just a remaining portion that the insurance company was not willing to cover, right? So there might be a little bit of an expense there, but not bad data overall. Now the fun part, what were some of the key findings that we had with this project? So some items here, consumers show early interest. Of course, we saw from the surveys that there was some scattered interest, but some very high potential for the interest as well, with the knowledge of this already being a very popular concept amongst the United States. I can only imagine what it would be for the rest of the world, where they might not have the accessibility to such wonderful healthcare, yet alone constant monitoring and data. With that, all respondents valued a multi-metric monitoring platform. They don't want it to do one thing, they want it to do a bunch of things. Vital, nutrient monitoring, insulin, a one-stop shop for all things. Hey, how am I doing today in this moment? With that, we also saw that there is a small little barrier there for comfort. There would be, of course, other items to explore in this further with more detail. But implantable technology, what are the risks? What are the benefits? And of course, weighing that as an opportunity cost, of course. And then lastly, the insurance coverage could significantly influence adoption. Number one, insurances probably won't adopt this if it's not FDA approved. But also with insurances, are they willing to foot that bill? Are they going to have to, share that cost and bill with the consumers we saw? And most consumers, according to the survey, were comfortable between a $300 to $600 range. All wonderful key findings here from this project. Like any good business person, what are the market opportunities for this wonderful concept? So of course, this is a growing market. And then also, what are the market segments, parallels, or even, co-partners for such a wonderful concept? Great idea there for market opportunity. And then also, for these target segments, what kind of health benefit, monitoring, or advancements could we have for anything related to the chronic diseases of our patients that we can capitalize on with this wonderful product? Integration with the healthcare providers, we kind of knocked on that one a little bit. Is this going to be something that's provided? Is this going to be something that's paid for? Is this something that they're going to need a little bit more information, or other items to enable this to be approved in medical plans? Lastly, does this device support preventative medicine and early detection? Of course, if it being a monitoring device for nutrients, vitals, and insulin and all those things we talked about, that would be an absolute no-brainer. But of course, what more could we pull from this, and what advancements and improvements could we get with such a market opportunity? For the conclusions and recommendations portions, we had a lot of opportunity here and a lot of different ideas that stemmed in the research. Of course, I'll list those sources in my final. But this was really fun to kind of go over, as the concept went far and wide. We talked about, different segments of this. It can stem to other items of the medical industry, right? And of course, it has significant potential, for consumers and what it can do. Of course, the initial launch of this would probably need to be prioritized towards the community that needs it the most, right? Those high-risk patients, as we see there in one of the bullet points. We would, of course, want this accessible to anybody and everybody, but that is obviously dependent upon its accessibility through healthcare providers. Of course, the cost of it, say it's not covered, just items of that nature. So, of course, the partnership with healthcare providers, insurers, and, of course, how much you're able to afford as the consumer is vital. And then lastly, just like any good survey, it's all about the sample size. So the law of large numbers would definitely help with this and give further clarity for that data. So here we're going to go ahead and also take a look at some lessons learned and reflect a little. With the consumer trust being, of course, critical, right? Is this something that's FDA approved? Is this going to cause me issues as it's attached to me? Is the accuracy of the device where it needs to be? Is it going to yield, accurate results to my medical practitioner? And how is this going to affect my treatment? So items like that, right? So that kind of ties into the safety concerns and clinical validation. Of course, with that, the integrated health insights. Is this going to be an app? Is this something I have to pull off of me and reinsert to download the data? Is this something I can bring, my phone next to and it scan the results according to an app? All those wonderful things there would be great insights to have, for such a product, and be able to relay that consumers, doctors, and providers. Lastly, of course, the price point. Just like any good business, right? What is the cost for this, and what are the cost strategies that we can come up with for market penetration? And as this presentation comes to an end, just 4 points that we have for further research and development of this concept. Of course, we want to expand on the surveys. We talked about the sample size for not only stronger numbers, accuracy, and volume, but just statistical confidence, as many many surveys therefore yields better results to set the trend of what consumers actually want. Of course, we'd want to consult the medical practitioners, the physicians, the providers, get interviews. Hey, is this something that you would be interested in? If so, how do we make it available to the public, but of course our consumers that are going through the medical plans for health insurance? And then, of course, the other two main items: explore the regulatory and reimbursement pathways. Is it FDA approved? What can we do to get, government funding, reimbursement, anything of that type? And of course, evaluate the potential partnerships that this would have. Again, those, segmented businesses, or that, co-align. All wonderful items here for the medical technology firms. A great opportunity there. I hope you liked my presentation.